We have made it to Tuesday. Got a little time before the college football playoff kicks off, but that doesn't mean we're not going to give you the best breakdown in the world. Only the way that Crain Company can do it. But before we get into that and get to your calls at 2:45 p.m. Central and watch you hit that like and subscribe button if you're on YouTube, David, they have announced the Heisman finalists.
Yes.
We have the four, don't we? Can you please tell the beautiful people who they are?
Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty. I think it's a two-horse race at this point, but Cam Ward and Dylan Gabriel both got invited to New York. No Cam Scatabo, no Dylan Sampson. Would you like to hear their stats?
Yes, please. Can we give their stats? Do we have them compared to what Genty's are? Like the running back to running back, if we could look that up. Just, you said Scatabo was, 1,500 yards, 19 touchdowns, something like that?
All right, here's Cam Scatabo for Arizona State. 1,568 rushing yards, 19 touchdowns, another 506 receiving, and 3 touchdowns. So that's over 2,000 total yards. For Dylan Sampson at Tennessee, 1,485 rushing yards, 22 touchdowns, 141 receiving, no receiving touchdowns. And then Jeanty is 2,497 rush yards, 29 touchdowns, another 116 receiving, and a touchdown.
That's a lot of rushing yards.
All that to watch Travis Hunter?
All that to watch. And listen, we've talked about it many times. We've had people that call in and asked about it. I've got no problem with Travis Hunter winning the Heisman. But those numbers from Jeanty are, because it's like you watch Scatabo, you watch, all the yards that he churns up, and then you're like, all right, the carries difference, I wonder how many more carries Jeanty has.
Ashton had 344 carries. Scatabo had 263.
Wow. So 80 more carries. I'm not a math magician.
And Dylan Sampson had 256. So Dylan Sampson was averaging 5.8.
That's awesome.
Cam was averaging 6 yards a carry. Ashton Jeanty, 6.5.
God, you're averaging 6.
No. 7.3.
On 340 carries? That's insane.
7.3.
It's a great argument. Ohio State hosts Tennessee in round 1 of the college football playoff. We're going to go deep dive on that one. Then also deep dive Notre Dame taking on Indiana. And we're going to break down what a college football NIT bracket would look like this season. And spoiler alert, it's awesome. I'm Jay Crain, and welcome to Crain Company. Personally, I'm looking forward to every single playoff game in our new 12-team era. But there's always a best game or best matchup, and to me, that is hands down Ohio State hosting Tennessee. From a brand standpoint, it's a big matchup, we know that, but it's deeper. The archetype of these two teams should lead to a hell of a game. We know how good Ohio State's roster is. And that brings me to my main point of this open, because in a weird way, this Tennessee team is probably built better than any recent Vol team that's had success to actually go win this game in Columbus. No disrespect to Hendon Hooker and the incredible teams that he was on, but I actually like this style that Tennessee portrays to give them the best shot to go win against the Buckeyes. Their old teams were track meet winners. They're like the Globetrotters, where it was purely about offensive tempo and just trying to outscore opponents while defense was borderline optional. This year's team is almost the polar opposite. That isn't to say they can't be explosive or that they're bad offensively, but they carve the turkey a different way, small cut by small cut. They have no problem pounding the ball, setting up play action, and beating you with a sound defense that flies around with bad intentions at ramming speed. They can actually take the ball and go hide for a while. Both of these teams have a top 5 scoring defense, and while Ohio State has a lot of offensive firepower, Tennessee is good enough on defense to negate that the way that Michigan did. And if Ohio State plans to just line up and try and pump the balls into submission in the run game, that task could turn out to be Herculean, especially after we just watched them try and do it and fail against that same Michigan team. Now, past Tennessee teams, I don't think, would be able to consistently stop the talented running back tandem that Ohio State has, which would lead to skinny coverage, opening the door for Igbuka, Smith, and Tate to feast vertically down the field at any point in time. In fact, if Ohio State wanted, they probably could keep the former high-flying Tennessee offense off the field and limit their possessions, which in turn would create a more narrow path to victory for the boys from Rocky Top. That isn't to say Ohio State won't win. After all, this is a tough ask for Tennessee to go into their house and take the remote. But out of all the previous Tennessee teams that have recently found success, this type of team may give them the best chance structurally that they could have ever asked for heading into this game. David Cone, former Michigan quarterback, my brother, former Western State Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crain. Cone, are you getting what I'm saying here? Like, if you look at the way this Tennessee team is put together, it is different than what we've seen. I know Nico is still young, but he's played in tough environments. He's been through up and downs. But at any point in time, Tennessee can line up and have a chance to run the ball and stop the run. And when you can do that, you don't have to put up fireworks offensively to be able to win games. And maybe in cold weather against an Ohio State team that's really talented, that does give this team the best chance to win.
No doubt. Well, if you're going to go on the road and play in a cold weather playoff game, there's two things you'd like to have. That's a strong defense. We always say defense travels. Tennessee has that, and a great run game. We just talked about their running back has 1,400 rushing yards and 22 touchdowns this season. So that's going to be Nico Iamaleava's. Those are his two best friends. I think that Nico needs to play a good football game in order for Tennessee to win. And there's a couple reasons that I say this. If you're a Tennessee fan or a college football fan around the country and you're going to watch this game, but you really hadn't watched the Buckeyes play that much, you only watched them play against Oregon and you say, well, they lost that one, or you only watched them play against their arch rival in Michigan, you say, you lost to a terrible 500 Michigan team. You know, just remember, Michigan's defense really had to throw a perfect game to win that. And we have a couple clips here. We want to break it down from a fundamental standpoint on setting the edge and the way Mason Graham played and all of the details that go into that. But high level, Michigan's defense really threw a perfect game at the Buckeyes. Now, Tennessee's defense, I think, is built in a similar way. They could do the same thing. And you know, we've talked about Dylan Sampson being able to break out in the running game, especially in the second half of some of these games. But when you go down the stretch of Tennessee's season, right, especially right there in the middle, it was Arkansas, Florida, Alabama, 1, 2, 3. Those three games, they were shut out, all three of those games in the first half. And the next week against Kentucky, only scored 1 touchdown. So that's 7 points over 4 games in the middle of their season. Now, how you go on the road and score 17 in the first half against that Georgia defense, I'm not quite sure, but that was a good sign. I think that they'll be able to find some success in the run game with Dylan Sampson. We have a clip of that we're going to show, and I do think that Tennessee's defense is set up to do some similar things that Michigan's defense did against the Buckeyes. I just don't think they're both going to throw a perfect game the way that Michigan was in a rivalry game. I think Nico's going to have to make some throws for Tennessee to win.
Well, and I think there's, as different as they are in years, the comparison of Will Howard throwing the ball and Nico throwing the ball, I think there's some similarities there. But I want to focus in on a word you said. You said that you think Nico has to play good.
Not perfect.
And that is my point. I don't think he has to play elite. Mm-hmm. I don't think Will Howard has to play elite. In the past, Hendon Hooker would have to go play elite to beat this Ohio State team. That is the difference. But in that same token, me sitting here and saying, oh, well, you know, Tennessee can just run the ball and stop the run, that is what cost them against Arkansas a little bit when they shut it down. Remember, they beat Oklahoma. They just held on. They can't necessarily just go into it saying, we're not going to give Nico the chance to screw it up. But if he can make a couple of those throws, just like with Will Howard, if he can make a couple of those throws to Jeremiah Smith, to Egbuka. I mean, you look around the embarrassment of riches that Ohio State has. Not that Tennessee doesn't have good players. I mean, you look at Thornton, some of the pieces they have. I just don't think this Tennessee team has to go play above board from an explosive standpoint on offense to be able to go and win this game. And Blaine, that gets me to my point of, which, if you're the offense, if you're Josh Heupel, right, or you're Chip Kelly, you are going to feel each other out at the beginning of this game. You are going to see if they can stop the run, because the first answer isn't to go out there and let Nico throw the ball 75 times and then Will Howard throw the ball 75 times. But when it comes down to it, if you're the OC for either team, would you surprise that defense a little bit by maybe pitching backwards? Or is it just going to be that quick screen game that we see from Tennessee, that quick screen game to Jeremiah Smith and some of these other guys that we see from Ohio State? How would you go about it?
If I'm Ohio State and Chip Kelly, if there were going to be a team to pitch backwards, I think it would be them. as good as Ohio State's running backs are, they're not good at running the ball this year. I think
it's offensive line.
Offensive line. I think Ohio State's more of a finesse team. If I'm Tennessee, I don't need to be anybody else than who I am. The kind of the keys I look at, if you're Tennessee, obviously you have to control the run game with Dylan Sampson. You have to, and I think you need to set that early. I think you get in the red zone, obviously you need 7 points and not 3. And I think Nico needs to be protected. You can say a lot of things about this Ohio State defense, but from their front 7 to their back end, they're pretty damn good, and they're pretty good at getting to the quarterback. So if you're Nico, I think his legs will come into play here. And if you're Ohio State, I wouldn't be surprised if you pitch backwards. But Ohio State also needs to know who they are, right? They don't need to try to beat Tennessee in the way Tennessee beats teams, all right? Ohio State needs to get the balls to their best players, and they need to get into it early. If you know anything about Tennessee, their front 7 is extremely good, but there are problems in the back end. And with Jeremiah Smith and Ohio State, with these guys, I'm establishing early dominance. If I ever get a one-on-one matchup with Jeremiah Smith, I am taking it. Chip Kelly can't fall into the problem of turning Ohio State into a team that they're not. They are not a great running the football team. You need to spread it out. You can establish the run in a different way, quick passes, short screens, RPO game. That's the way Ohio State needs to lean in this game, and to get Nico and Tennessee in obvious passing downs. And if you can do that, it obviously limits the playbook for Tennessee. You know what's coming, and that starts with what? That's stopping the run game early. If I'm doing anything to take away from Tennessee, I am take away Dylan Sampson and the run game. If that means adding an extra hat or whatever you have to do, that's what I'm doing first.
Yeah, and I think you would feel better about funneling resources into the box if you're Ohio State as compared to Tennessee, because while Tennessee does have good weapons on the outside, they do not have what Ohio State has. But again, I thought the game plan for Ohio State against Michigan, and I hate to say this about a guy that's as smart as Chip Kelly, he's forgotten more football than I know, was unbelievably immature. Mm-hmm. I think he pulled a Jim Knowles from a couple years ago just on the offensive side of the ball. Remember Jim Knowles against Michigan? They went zero coverage against a Michigan offense that couldn't hit explosive plays. And when you go zero coverage, you're one step away from not giving up a first down, a touchdown. And Michigan was able to take advantage of that. Well, the opposite end of that on the spectrum is what Ohio State tried to do against Michigan. To say, you know what? We're just going to line up and try and bully you. Mm-hmm. To Blaine's point, that is not their game. But as far as running the ball, that's why, again, this game is fascinating, because I think there's so many similarities in the way these teams are kind of put together outside of Ohio State's lack of ability to run the ball and Tennessee's, ability, or at least up to this point, the ability to run it, but the quarterback run game. Right? This is the Bourbon Bowl, man. You don't hold anything back. If Nico's got to run it, they got to run it. Quarterback design runs, creating, improvising outside of the pocket. Will Howard running the ball as well with quarterback design runs. I'm just wondering, David, if you are Tennessee, you got to go out there and say, we're going to get in our base stuff. Mm-hmm. We don't have to funnel resources early against this Ohio State offensive line. But if you're Ohio State and Jim Knowles on defense, you say, you know what? We know that Tennessee's going to quick game us on the outside. They're going to now screen us. They're going to try and hit the skinnies in the middle and then take shots vertically. But if I can put Caleb Downs in that box and stop Dylan Sampson, I would feel a lot better about my chances if I was Ohio State, especially being at home.
Well, I've been saying all season I would take a ton of rollout packages for Nico to the right and to the left. A lot of people think, hey, you don't want to roll out with right-handed quarterbacks to the left. I take a ton of rollout packages to both sides because it eliminates half the field, half the reading that he has to do for a young quarterback. Plus, it gets a great running quarterback already on the move for those, passing and running options. I agree with what you said about Chip Kelly's play calling against Michigan. I will say his play calling on the road at Penn State was phenomenal. I thought he was the MVP of that game. I have a clip for most of the things you brought up, except I don't have Nico or Will Howard running the football. But can we just bring up 18B first? Let's just start with that, because this was what I was talking about. And we could have pulled 20 different clips from this game against Michigan, the way they were setting the edge. And Mason Graham, who declared today for the NFL, by the way, he's
very talented.
Maybe Tennessee's in the top 5 pick. But he was able to feast in the middle, and part of why he was able to is because the defensive ends were able to set hard edges against the Buckeyes for an entire game. This was in the red zone here. Go ahead and run this.
Draw.
And it was like that for most of the game.
I mean, that's just winning one-on-one blocks. And again, I've got no problem with trying to set things up and finding a run game that way. But there's just something, I've said this all year, and I want to give Will Howard credit. Played really good at Oregon, right? Against Penn State, I thought he played pretty good as well. But there's still something about him when the run game is not there, having to throw them to wins in tight coverage, which Blaine, as much as you may not trust the Tennessee back end, I've been pleasantly surprised at how much they've improved. You look at some of the personnel that they've had back there. I think they can hold their own, but I don't know if Tennessee has seen a wide receiver group like this as well. But can Will Howard make the throws down the field? I know he can make the quick throws, but the throws down the field.
I mean, compared to the best thing about Tennessee's defense is their front seven, right? I think we all three can sit here and agree with that. But the somewhat weak part of their defense is their back end. And you got to look at the ingredients of what becomes a national championship. Go look at the last three national champions, right? I mean, Michigan, Georgia. What could those teams do? They could run the ball and stop the run. If you can't run the ball against this Tennessee team, Will Howard is not good enough to throw you to the win.
That's my whole
I don't care if you have Calvin Johnson and Jerry Rice on the outside.
But is Nico good enough to throw Tennessee to a win?
I trust Nico's arm a lot more than I trust Will Howard's.
Really?
I trust Tennessee's scheme a lot more than I trust Josh Heupel. Tennessee knows who they are a lot more than Ohio State knows who they are. They look in the mirror and say, this is who we are, this is what we do, and we're going to be great at it. You can't just show up Saturday to Saturday with a different scheme and say, oh, we're going to try to beat this team like this. Sooner or later, you have to fall back on something that you're best at. And what Ohio State is best at right now, which is surprising with Henderson and Junkins at running back, it's throwing the ball to these receivers. So if Tennessee can make Ohio State one-dimensional early, you're in trouble because now the back end knows. And now that front seven can get after Will Howard, get after him.
So play clip 18A to this point, because when the Buckeyes couldn't establish a running game, this is what it led to a mistake here in critical territory for Will Howard.
Will Howard. Third down and 9 at the 4. Howard throwing out of his own end zone.
And that's not Will Johnson over there.
No.
Right?
I'm telling you, man, there's something about this cat throwing that I don't trust. And it's sad. I hate to say that when you got the type of receivers that he has, but it's the mistakes in crucial moments and the lack of ability to have the natural feel as they throw. We talk about Quinn Ewers all the time. There's some deficiencies to Quinn Ewers' games, but when he is protected, he has a great feel as a thrower to put the ball in spots. I just don't know if Will Howard has that.
Now bring up clip 19 to Blaine's point about the RPO, because here's something we've talked so much about how Oregon, for instance, supplements the run with quick passing game. Well, this isn't a now screen. Jeremiah Smith has caught a couple now screens for touchdowns. This is more in the RPO fashion off of the slant. But watch how Marshall spins down, and I know it's against Marshall, but watch how they spin down here. Will Howard's running this RPO pitch concept and hits a quick slant here to Jeremiah Smith.
Saves a biscuit from being overweight. Over the middle. The ball caught.
And that's the kind of stuff they can get going.
So, and if I'm Tennessee and I'm Tim Banks and I'm watching this, again, this is why I will go back to, if I can play with an even box and stop the run, I am not pressing these guys at Ohio State. I am not playing low with my secondary. Even if I'm in man free.
So you're free release all day?
I'm going to play, if I'm running cover 2 and you feel like you got a free release and I can jump things like we saw Michigan do sometimes, that's the best way to play it. Now, I'm not saying you don't show something early and then maybe press bail out of some of it, but I am not living in a world where we're playing man free and I'm going to give up a slant. He's got to make a safety miss and we got to go win. I would love to sit in too high, and that's the difference, I think. Can Ohio State sit in too high and stop the run against Tennessee? I think there's a possibility, but can Tennessee sit in too high and stop the run against Ohio State? I think that's a probability. And to me, that may be the difference in this game, where the weight doesn't have to get put all on Nico. And then it goes back to if you're Tennessee, what you're going to run tempo because that's who you are. But what level of tempo are you going to run? Because there's two different outcomes. One, you run tempo and it's working, so you keep your foot on the gas. Or two, you run tempo and it's working, your defense is stopping them, but you want to keep your defense on the sidelines, so you slow it down. If Tennessee has the ability to put their foot on the gas and operate at warp speed and then say, you know what, we got Ohio State in 3rd and 6s and 3rd and 7s and 3rd and 9s, and we're playing 2-man, right? And Will Howard can't beat us, or we're playing quarters, or we're playing 6, and we're able to mix up and he can't beat us. At what point offensively do you say, you know what? Let's slow it down. Let's lean on them. Let's keep our defense fresh for the second half, especially on the road. Those are the type of 4D chess games that I want to see in this game. Not just the regular, run of the mill. They need to run the ball good. They need to throw the ball good. We know that, but you watch this show to get that type of analysis.
Well, the last clip that I have for this game deals directly with what you're talking about. Pull up clip number 20, please. And this is an example of even in games where Tennessee's offense struggled, and certainly they struggled against this Arkansas defense, they have the capability to do this at any time.
Let's play it.
The dirt on this third down. They try to run for it and breaking free.
And that's 3rd and 4.
Yeah.
And you know what? To be honest with you, I don't think I would not be shocked at all, David, in this game if we did not get a run over 25 yards. Mm-hmm. But I think a 10-yard run in this game is going to feel like a 40.
I think weather will have a lot to do with it.
It will, but when you look at, especially with Ohio State and who they have at safety, it's really hard to get past the second level. No offense to Arkansas, no offense to Alabama or some of these other teams, but trying to hit, it's not like Michigan sat there and just hit home runs in the run game against Ohio State. Oregon was able to, Dylan Gabriel was able to, I think he threw for 341. He was able to precisely target Ohio State in certain areas, especially in underneath coverages. And they got a tight end. I mean, Oregon's tight end is one of the best in the country. We got a clip we're going to show on that here in a little bit. But I'm to the point now where I think this game is going to be low scoring, and your typical 70-yard play is probably not going to happen, but the 30-yard play may be just as important, and a field goal may be worth a touchdown.
Caleb Downs is a lot better closer to the line of scrimmage. I mean, if you've watched Ohio State this year, what has he done all year? He's got closer and closer and closer to the line of scrimmage. I think penalties will play a huge role in this game. Who can stay on schedule? And I want to ask you both, how much designed quarterback or run are we going to see from both these teams?
I think you're going to see a lot more from Will Howard than you will Nico. Now, let me preface this. I don't consider the zone read a designed quarterback run, right? That is a true read, just like the RPO is a true read. The difference between zone read and the RPO is that a zone read is a run either by the quarterback or the running back. An RPO can be a run by the quarterback or the running back, but there's also a pass that is attached to it. So as far as Q power, Q counter, power read. I think you're going to get more of that from Ohio State, and I think they have to do that to get an extra blocker in there and truly get a hat on a hat. As far as Tennessee, David, I like your idea about supplementing some of the run game with the rollout passes, especially arm side, but you're going to get a lot more zone read, and then you're going to get that now screen out there. Tennessee's going to test you. Yeah. There's a reason they line up in the splits like they do to be able to test you wide.
Yeah, people don't realize how much those splits just cause trouble for defenses.
Well, it messes with dividers.
Yeah, it messes with your divider. It just thins you out so much, and you have to rely on those safeties, especially if it's one-on-one in the hole. You have to make those tackles. And one-on-one in the hole against Dylan Sampson, good luck, buddy.
And out wide, I think that OSU will tackle well in space. I like the under, to your point. I think it's going to be a hard physical game. Points hard to come by. To answer your question specifically on how much designed quarterback run for each team, significantly less than I would call, probably. What we'll get.
Like I said, it's the Bourbon Bowl. You can't hold anything back. Let's get to the chat here. Remember, the phone lines are going to open 2:45 p.m. Central, 1-855-236-3228. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button.
All right, chat. What he said, if you donate, it's on topic. It will get read. $2 donation from Mama Locked. She says, how much will Ryan Day / the OSU fan drama hurt Ohio State in this game?
Well, that's the other big. If we're going to talk about the off the field stuff, which obviously it makes sense to talk about in general, but especially in this situation, how's Ohio State going to respond, David? How are they going to respond after what happened against Michigan? You lose that game at Oregon. You're like, damn, you beat Penn State. You're feeling good about it. This was the year to take out Michigan on your way to getting in the Big Ten championship with your rematch against Oregon, who beat you at their place earlier by 1 point, but you lose that game once again. And you're down. You're hearing the whispers. There's the fight at the end of the game. How was it? We're going to find out about how much I think this team respects Ryan Day. I think we're going to find that out. Not saying that they have to win the game, but how are they going to play, especially when something goes wrong? Mm-hmm. Because if everything's going good, there's a lot of front runners out there. It's easy to be a great teammate when it's going good. It's easy to play even harder when it's going good. But what happens if Tennessee takes the ball and goes and scores? What happens if Tennessee runs the kickback? What happens if Will Howard throws a pick on the first drive? Will this Ohio State team be able to rebound and be mature? Or will they go back to, we lost to Michigan too, and woe is us, and then it snowballs from there?
I think they will respond. Remember, it was 2 years ago they had a gut-wrenching loss at home against Michigan. Then they found themselves matched up in a playoff game against Georgia, and they lost at the last second in the midnight miracle. So I think they're going to show up, and they're going to have the home field advantage.
Let's go to a $5 donation from D2. He says, lack of QB-based runs with Howard is hurting OSU in the run game. Will open up vertical passing game and run lanes for Henderson and Junkins. They have to do it this game.
I agree, but Blaine, I think I was watching the game with you, watching Ohio State game with you. I'm all for the quarterback run game. It should be a huge part of it. I've just sat here and talked about it. But I'm going to tell you, when it's 4th and 1 or it's 4th and 2, and they get in the shotgun, and I've watched Will Howard run it, I don't trust him as much as them giving the ball to Henderson or Judkins.
Sure.
I mean, how many times on 4th down has Ohio State been stopped with Will Howard running the ball? So you want to incorporate both of those. You'd love to have everybody just going off, whether it's Travion, Quinshon, and Will all together. But I tell you, if it's 4th and 1, unless it's a quarterback sneak under center where we're going to push the guy and Will Howard's a big guy, I like giving the ball to Henderson or Judkins. I personally believe that.
Let's go to a $2 donation from Garrett Bruno. Appreciate it, Garrett. It says, weather will not be as a biggest factor as people think. Knoxville is one of the colder regions in the South, being near the mountains. Tennessee, in general, is one of the colder states.
Well, I laugh about this, too. I saw some guy post that's a Notre Dame fan. Hey, Southerners, get ready to come up here and check this out. Yeah, buddy, I looked at your roster. 40% of your team's from the South. So I think that argument sucks. Now, snow is a huge factor. The cold, there's ways to combat it. But, I mean, look, there's a reason it's called Rocky Top, man. You know what I'm saying? It's not exactly warm. And we're in the state of Tennessee right now. They're used to cold weather. But once you get going and the bullets start flying, maybe it's catching the ball that it affects it more. Maybe it's the ball handling. And I wonder, too, and we're going to have Rhett Lashley on later in the week, I'm going to ask him about, you can prepare for rain by getting the ball wet. How do you prepare for cold? That's an interesting thing. All right, one more. We got to move.
All right, let's go to Andrew M. What's up, Andrew? He says, I just don't know how you shrug off the losses for Ohio State, including Simmons and your center. It's hard to replace that guy.
Well, and look, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought they were struggling on the offensive line before those guys went down. But now you look at losing your center, who I don't think people really understand how hard it is to snap, step, and block. That is a trait that you can't just be like, all right, hey, guard, go in there and snap it and step and block. Not only are you having to help set protections and things like that, but you have more movements that come along with that, including when you have a quarterback in the gun, getting him a good snap. So, yeah, that's why I'm looking at Tennessee, and I just wonder if you're Josh Heupel, do you go into this game, even though it almost cost you against Oklahoma, but you got away with it? It did cost you against Arkansas. Do you play this thing close to the vest early on offense and just see? Or do you go there and you tell Nico, hey, we're going to let you fire a few down the field early, hit some of those big plays?
Not that.
I would probably play it closer
probably
to
the first one.
I hate saying that.
He's right. He's right about OSU's losses, but did the season not play out almost identical for these two teams? I mean, that's why they're playing each other. Yep. I mean, one loss to Georgia, right? That's a top 3 loss at the time. The other loss to Oregon, top 3 loss at the time, and number 1 maybe on the road. But then your other losses are to 500 teams. I mean, it's hard to shrug off the loss for Tennessee against Arkansas,
very true,
who's 6-6,
which was on the road. And you got to play this game on the road.
Quickly, let me get to this. $2 donation from D2009. He says, do you think Ohio State will use tempo? It's in Chip's DNA.
I wouldn't be. You're going to get a little bit of everything. I think it's not just about using tempo. It's what type of tempo. If you go talk to these offensive guys, there's 35 different types of tempo. There's NASCAR. There's pit stop. There's Uncle Tony's baloney medicine. Like all type, they got different names for all of them. Will you go warp speed, or will you wait till you get that first down like most guys do, then get up to the line, run a play quickly on first down, and then maybe slow it down? I don't know. I like mixing the tempos if you're able to do it, but that's a lot easier said than done. But speaking about being able to do it, there is nothing better in life than being at a live sporting event or a live event in general. If you want to go to the Ohio State game, if you want to go to a hockey game, if you want to go to Shania Twain concert, you want to make sure you're operating with a business that can take the filter, give you the filters to take out the fluff. You can buy tickets up to an hour before the event. Again, it doesn't matter, sports, music, entertainment, whatever. And you can see the view from your seat before you even purchase the ticket. That's where our friends at Game Time come in. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. You download the Game Time app from the App Store. You create an account. Use code BOOSTER, BOOSTER, for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the app, create an account, use that code BOOSTER. Saves you money, makes us look good too, for $20 off when you download Game Time today. Again, it can be concerts. It can be, we're here in Nashville. We got the Titans. We got the Preds. We got, Dolly Parton up there singing every other weekend somewhere. You need to make sure you download that Game Time app today. Use that code BOOSTER. What time is it, fellas?
Game time.
Yeah, we definitely practice that. We practice that all the time. All right, let's move on here to another game, David.
All right, guys, we got Notre Dame, Indiana, which we are going to be live streaming from Mission Cigar. Right now, the line's -7.5, like Blaine pointed out yesterday, 50.5 on the over and under. I have some clips for this game as well, but just first off, your thoughts.
Well, it's like I said yesterday, and we're going to get into the clips that I'm about to mention. If you just look at the box score of the Ohio State-Indiana game, you are going in this game thinking Indiana doesn't deserve to be here. They got, they played one, unbelievably tough opponent. They got embarrassed. And yes, Ohio State deserves credit for winning that game. They did end up blowing out Indiana. But if you watch the game, you may have a little bit of a different take on it. Indiana fumbled a punt when that game was 7-7, then gave up a punt return for a touchdown. Literally, into the second quarter, you fumble the punt. Like, literally just fumble the snap. The punter dropped the snap. It was a pretty good snap. Then, starting the second half, when you're down a touchdown, you instantly give up a punt return for a touchdown. Now you're down 21-7. Indiana is a very routine team. What do I mean by that? They do not possess the ability to hit explosive plays all the time or come back from down 17 to 20 points against quality teams. They have to stay on schedule. When they wake up in the morning, they brush their teeth at the same time, same amount of time after they wake up. Then they go put the coffee on. Then they go crack a couple eggs and cook them. Then they eat. Then they go to work. Then they make their calls. They check their voicemails. It has to stay on schedule, and they're great at it. It's almost boring when you watch it, but there's a beauty in the boredom. But when you operate like that, if you get behind or something goes off schedule, maybe you forgot to get eggs. Oh, God, well, now my day's ruined, right? Maybe I didn't go get toothpaste the day before. Now my day's ruined. It throws you off, and I don't know if they have the capability to rebound from that. So staying on schedule with a quarterback like Rourke, who I got a lot of respect for, that does have good feel as a passer. He's a really good anticipatory thrower, but he lacks the ability to create like some of these other quarterbacks. Therefore, he has to stay on schedule, and that offensive line has to stay on schedule like the whole team does. But with that offensive line, what keeps them on schedule, David? It's the run game and the balance and that versatility of Curt Cignetti's offense. Again, it's not sexy. Surratt and these other guys don't run by people. They're great possession receivers. They can go get 50-50 balls, but it's very hard for them to hit 60, 70, 75-yard plays against good competition. So that ability to run the ball kind of camouflages that offensive line a little bit, which slows down that pass rush, which gives Rourke time to let these routes develop, which gives him time to work the short to intermediate to long game. So with Indiana, I think that the path to victory is narrow, not because they don't deserve to be there, but they are not a team that is able to create. They are not abstract. They are not Jackson Pollock. They're more like me, just making sure I color inside the lines and the picture will look good. That's what I think about Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana, to me, was not only holding their own against OSU for a quarter and a half, they were really setting the tone.
Kicked their ass early, David.
Goal line punch-in, goal line stand, multiple third down conversions against zone coverage and man coverage. They did turn the football over on a strip sack fumble at one point, but they immediately turned around and created a turnover on Will Howard. Now, if your point is, well, I don't think OSU's that good, well, then that's fine too. This is just the best team they played. But there were really three moments there. We said for a quarter and a half, they were setting the tone. For 2.5 quarters, OSU made their dominance felt. There were those three plays in the middle we talked about yesterday. Why don't we go ahead and bring them up and talk about them? Let's just start with 21A. Which one's 21A?
Let's go 21A.
Two of them are special teams.
Yeah.
This is the 3rd and 35.
Yes. So, again, this is the ability for Ohio State to create. I don't think Indiana can create like this. That's the difference. Then they went for it on 4th and 10, David, and got it. Indiana's up 7-0 there. They were on schedule that whole first drive. I watched it over at our boy Sergio's house. I'm sitting there watching Indiana like they're playing Maryland. It's just right down the field, just plugging along. But then when you got to improvise, when all of a sudden the director says, hey, forget the line, create your own line, and it turns into a disaster, I don't think they can pick up the pieces from it. Let's go ahead and play this clip of when it's 7-7 with 1:47 to go in the second quarter. It's been a hell of a game. Indiana's about to punt it back to Ohio State, and they forgot to buy the damn eggs. Can't happen.
This one, muffed. Ohio
Can't
State.
happen.
Downs Evans at the 5-yard line.
So you end up going down 14-7 at half, right? Right? Yep. Start of the second half. There's 13 minutes to go in the third quarter. Ohio State's up 14-7 because of that drop punt. Indiana comes out. I believe they went 3 and out, and then you have to punt again. Let's play the clip. Caught the punt. Caught the snap, excuse me. You punt it to the wrong side of the field.
And it bounced.
And it bounces. And here's the difference.
Yep, he's gone.
And by the way, that's a safety for Ohio State. That's Caleb Benton, NFL player. Which I think he may be a nickel in the NFL. That's story for Monday.
It reminds me a lot of Branch for the Lions.
Yeah, so now you're down 21-7. I don't think Indiana can come back from that. Now, I know Notre Dame is not Ohio State. Let's talk about Notre Dame for a second here, David, because there's been an evolution, I think, a little bit with Riley Leonard, where earlier in the season, he was really just a running back that threw it sometimes, and he struggled to kind of make those nuanced throws. We know Notre Dame is physical. We know the defense is physical, right? It's a Marcus Freeman coach team. They're athletic. They're athletic in the back end. They're tough in the front seven. So they can negate Indiana, I think, staying on schedule. But the question now becomes, can they create like Ohio State could create if they do stymie Indiana? Or will Indiana be able to get away with maybe making a mistake or two like that, where it keeps the game close enough they don't have to start hitting explosive plays like, you're watching the Iron Dome hit down rockets somewhere in Israel?
I think that's the question most college football fans across the country have. Has Notre Dame gotten better week by week since that Northern Illinois loss, or have they just gotten incrementally better and they've played weaker competition, or they've made the most out of the opportunities against the teams they have played? Again, I think the Georgia Tech win is a heck of a win. USC, not a terrific football team this year, and they had benched Miller Moss by the time Notre Dame played them. Still a rivalry game. They took care of them. Let's just look at a couple things here. Let's look at the interception against Northern Illinois that led to that historic upset. This is at the end of the game, 6 minutes left. Go ahead, play this.
God, I still can't believe they lost this game.
And Notre Dame's up by a point here. It's 2nd and 1. Double post concept.
That's a bad decision and even worse.
Well, Riley Leonard said after the game that he made a poor decision. I mean, I think, look, he has the top post. You got what you wanted on that. I think it's a poor throw.
Yeah.
So that's the question is, are we in a situation with Riley Leonard where he's making poor throws, but maybe he thinks that he's making bad decisions? Pull up the one against USC here. Yeah. This is as the season has gone on, this is the last game for Notre Dame. This is 23A, I believe. Let's start with 23A.
They're up 7. 1st and 10, third quarter. 3 minutes to go.
Riley Leonard pressure coming from
running back,
going deep.
Okay, look, again, we don't have the all-22 view. I don't know if he's on a different page with the wide receivers or what's happening there. But again, an equally bad look as far as an interception goes. But now play clip 23B, because I just want people to understand that when this kid really unleashes a football, he can put it right on the money.
Made carry, setting bad. Riley Leonard loading. Firing,
and so he has that capability. That's an NFL throw.
To me, and again, not that Will Howard was the greatest thrower of all time, but I feel like Riley Leonard can create even better than Will Howard in the run game and when the play breaks down. So if you're Marcus Freeman, if you're Mike Denbrock, the OC at Notre Dame, and you're looking at this Indiana team, Rourke's a better thrower overall than I think Riley Leonard is.
Yes.
But I think Riley Leonard is a better athlete overall than Rourke is, which can lead to more points in more instances because there's more ways to score. So if you're Mike Denbrock in Notre Dame, and Blaine, I'll throw this one at you. You are going to test out, just like we just talked about with Tennessee, Ohio State, how well the run game is working early. And they got some good backs at Notre Dame. The offensive lines played better than what I thought they would after the injuries that they had. And some of the guys, obviously, Alt that's playing for Harbaugh and the Chargers right now had left. But how much do you put it in Riley Leonard's arm to throw? And if you don't do that and you're running the ball, I think Indiana has a decent chance to stop that run game. Is that what Indiana wants? Is Indiana hoping that Notre Dame says, you know what? We don't want to put the ball, because there has been some inconsistency with Riley Leonard throwing the ball. We want you to try and just run the ball right at us. Make this game short, make it small, make it lacking creativity and explosive plays, because that's how we want to play.
Well, Indiana, a couple fun facts about Indiana, is one of the best. They're actually ranked 2nd in the nation in yards per rush. 1st in the nation in EPA. If there's anything Indiana can do they can stop the run. And this is the big story for me in this game. We can dress it all and put flashing lights on. Whoever wins the line of scrimmage is going to win this football game. When it comes to Riley Leonard, I think Riley Leonard's improvement throughout the year might be a story we really need to talk about, because that's not the same guy we watched play in Northern Illinois the way he's been playing later in the season. This game is going to come down to one. Is Indiana ready for the moment? Are they ready for this big of a football game? We can say what we want about Ohio State. They had a great first 2 drives, I believe, and got drugged for the rest of that game. Absolutely drugged. I mean, you go look at the yardage, it's not even close. But can you stay on schedule if you're Indiana? And Jeremiah Love and all these guys for Notre Dame, you don't have to be anything else than who you are. You don't have to lean on Riley Leonard's arm in this football game. Just be who you are. Give what the defense takes you. If you got the run game going, that's only going to open up the pass game. But this game is going to come down. If there's ever an under to take, I promise you it's this game. This will be a line of scrimmage, physical football game. I do like the receivers that Indiana have. I think they're good, but not great. It's going to come down to, I'm telling you, who wins the line of scrimmage in this football game.
Well, and when you say they got drugged by Ohio State, when it's not just that they did, it's when they did. When this game was going back and forth and there wasn't a major disaster, Indiana was running with Ohio State. It was 7-7. We could bring up the clip again with a minute to go before halftime. Where I worry about Indiana is what happens when it goes off schedule and then you look up and you're down 10 points. Now you've got to turn Rourke in this offense into something that they're not. Now they've got to start taking more chances. Now they are off schedule, and that's what leads you to getting drugged. Then the defense is out there for the whole second half, like they were against Ohio State. But to me, we can say that on one hand, but then ask on the other, I don't think this Notre Dame team possesses the capability to be as explosive as the Ohio State team outside of the difference between Riley Leonard's legs and Rourke's legs, because Rourke can't create on the outside like Riley Leonard can.
I will say Indiana had, after their first drive of 65 yards, for the rest of the game, they had 80 total yards on offense. And 65 of those came when they're down 30-7.
Yeah, they were clearly on script early, and that really worked out for them. The question I have for you guys from the Notre Dame side, and this is why I pulled the passing plays from Riley Leonard, because we already know about his legs. I think he might be the best design running quarterback in the country. He's up there with Haynes King and a couple others. I'm not talking about being fast and, just getting away outside the pocket on scrambles. I'm talking about you can line Riley Leonard up at any time and run Q counter and get 7 yards. We know that. And that's why you see a lot of stat lines and box scores throughout the season where he rushed for 150 and he threw for 110. I don't think that's going to be good enough for Notre Dame to win a national championship with some of the teams he's going to have to go through in the bracket. My question for you guys is that sort of performance where Riley Leonard has a really good game on the ground but doesn't really have a lot of success through the air, is that good enough to beat Indiana?
I think it is. To me, and again, I don't want to make picks yet, we're so far out, but this just feels like a game that is really close, that is played in a phone booth throughout the whole game, and then in the last couple possessions, Riley Leonard, whether it's on a pass where he decides to take off and run, makes 2 guys miss and scores from 30 yards out to give them the touchdown that goes ahead, or he's able to break a tackle, make a safety miss from Indiana in a designed run, and goes and scores a touchdown to be the difference. But if you are Indiana, if you are looking at this Notre Dame team, you have got to make Riley Leonard throw it to beat you. And you brought up, Blaine, they're one of the top teams in the country in defending the run.
They're second in the nation.
Second in the
yards per rush.
That, to me, is if you are Indiana, is what you have to lean back on. Now, I'll go back to what I said about Tennessee. And if that's the case, and you feel good, because I watch Indiana, it's not like they pressure a ton or they run stunt a ton. They do a really good job fundamentally at what they're at. Do you say, you know what? We're going to go into this game and we're going to load the box and we're going to make Mike Denbrock make Riley Leonard beat us with his arm? Or are we just going to keep doing what we've been doing, try and stop the run with an even box on early downs, try and get you in third and passing, and then bring our exotics, then try and confuse Riley Leonard and maybe get some of those turnovers like you saw against Northern Illinois or like you saw against USC and wait for a miscommunication?
I think field position is going to be huge.
It always is.
Huge in this football game. And obviously, if you're Indiana, you cannot blow it like you did on special teams. All right, let's go to Jay Hudd. What's up, man? He says, Notre Dame will win the line of scrimmage. That was Indiana's biggest weakness, even when they were found well the entire game against Ohio State. Notre Dame is big up front. And when I say big, big.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. Whose offensive line would you take right now? Notre Dame or Ohio State's? I may take Notre Dame's.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not like this Ohio State team is just mauling people on the offensive line. I think it's a good comment.
And remember, everything that you guys are saying about the field position and the time of possession and the under and all that kind of stuff, that's what I thought we were locked in for in the Notre Dame and Louisville game with their defense. And all of a sudden, that was, I think, the week we were at Innisfree with Alabama, Georgia. That thing on the television starts turning into a shootout out of nowhere.
Every time they would up.
And I think Indiana has had some problems up front protecting York.
That's what I'm saying. But what camouflages that? The run game. The run game is the best form of pass protection for a quarterback that there ever could be.
Let's go to Tom McLaughlin. What's up, Tom? He says, 8 teams Indiana played had losing records. I think they get absolutely drugged by Notre Dame. Do not trust this football.
How many teams did Notre Dame play with a losing record? I don't remember Notre Dame playing any. I mean, what's their best win?
Texas A&M.
A&M, that's 8-4. I mean, again, I know USC is down compared to where they were. So, look, I'm not saying that Indiana is better than Notre Dame. I'm not saying that Indiana's schedule is better than Notre Dame's schedule. But I don't think we can sit here and act like Notre Dame played this gauntlet and Indiana played a bunch of cross-eyed kids. I don't think that's the way it worked.
All right, let's go to Mike. What's up, Mike? He says, Indiana will play Notre Dame close for 3 quarters, but I see the Irish adding a score late to ice it 31-21. Final.
I would lean more toward a 24-17 or 27-17 final. Again, I think the under it's at 50.5, 49.5, somewhere around there. That's what I believe. All right, one more. We got to move.
All right, let's go to a $3 donation from Mr. Mims. Appreciate it, brother. He says, I think Rourke has his best game this year. Riley Leonard's an explosive quarterback, especially with his legs. Rourke has to hurt them through the air like USC did.
Is it this simple? Is the game this simple? With Rourke, does he have to have more things perfect around him to have success than Riley Leonard does? Because if it all goes downhill, if there's a tsunami coming at the line of scrimmage, there's only one quarterback in this game that can get out of it. And I think it's Riley Leonard. So is it just more on the probability of Indiana hoping that everything is perfect around him, like it has been a decent amount of time this year? And then if you're Riley Leonard, like he doesn't have to have as many things perfect around him to happen for him to have success. I think the answer may be that simple.
What a great opportunity for Rourke to go and prove to everybody that he is that
wrong.
guy. I mean, what if they find themselves down 10 and he leads that fourth quarter comeback? It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Well, then I think we start talking about Indiana in a little bit of a different light in this playoff if we see that against this Notre Dame team. All right, let's move on here. Talk a little college football NIT day before we get to your huddle up and phone.
Yeah, I think Blaine had this bracket earlier. Do we have a graphic of this?
This is so cool. Can we throw this up here? If the college football had an NIT, I want to have one. After seeing this, I want one. It's like going to the Humane Society. Oh, we're not going to get a dog. First dog I see, we're getting a dog. So here's what the matchups would be. All right, the 1 through 4 seed, because this is in the same format as the college football playoff would be, right?
So this honors the conference champs.
I believe this honors the conference champs.
And the group of 5
or
up there.
The highest rated, whatever. So the 1 through 4 seed, Bama would be 1, Miami would be 2, BYU would be 3, Illinois would be 4. They get a bye. So the matchup that would play Alabama, Syracuse and Missouri in the 9-8. All right, the matchup that would play Miami, Army and Iowa State. The matchup that would play BYU at the 3 seed, Colorado and South Carolina. Sign me up for that one, buddy. I'll watch that with 3 eyes. And then the matchup that'll lead to playing Illinois as the 4 seed, Ole Miss and UNLV.
Oh, so this has 2 group of 5 teams in there.
Yeah, it does. It's exactly like the order that they finished in the college football playoff rankings. If you took another 12, this is what it would look like. I mean, again, how many guys would opt out? How many guys would play? I don't know. But I think they would make a decent amount of money off this. But what I don't like is what I heard from people that said, well, the winner of this should play the winner of the other. But that's not how that works. You get a consolation prize, right? What does the boy say? The winner of this competition gets a new car. The second place winner gets a set of steak knives. Third place, you're fired.
You're fired. Congrats, Glengarry Glen Ross. What do you think about this?
Well, I just think if you tell me you wouldn't watch this, I don't think you like college football. Either that or you're just a plain out liar. I mean, I might watch this over the playoffs. I mean, look at the names you have in here. I mean, if they play, obviously, Shadur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Lenore Sellers, who's balling right now, Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, Cam Ward at Miami, Jalen Milroe,
Luther Burden,
Kyle McCord, the guy who leads the nation in interceptions. So it's just, You would make money hand over feet if you shout out Reddit College Football, one of great accounts to go follow that. But I tell you what, guys, why not?
Well,
why not?
Let me ask you this: if I propose this to you in the chat and in the comments, if I proposed and said, you know what, we're going to get rid of bowl games, we're going to have a 12-team college football playoff and a 12-team college football NIT. And we got matchups like this, would you be okay with that?
Well, the bowl games would be the matchups.
I'm talking about like the periphery bowl games. And I love South Alabama, but South Alabama playing Western Michigan in the, hey, let's feed you some Butterfingers bowl.
Oh, no. That's the Ole Miss UNLV 512. That's the Butterfingers.
Okay, good.
That's what I'm saying. The sponsors are going to get in there. But to that point, I'm glad we get a little taste of this with some of the bowl game matchups. For instance, Colorado and BYU are already going to play. That was a Big 12 matchup we didn't get. But imagine them having to go through South Carolina first to even get that. A couple things here. One, Michigan, we can't even make the NIT.
Dude, you're playing Bama in the Reliance.
How are we drawing the number 1 overall seed in the NIT, but we can't even make this tournament right here? I talk about brand awareness.
We can maybe
brand draw
for you.
But yeah, sign me up. I'd watch.
This is fantastic. All right, I want to get to the comments. This NIT, what they say real quick.
All right, let's go to Jacob Henderson. He says South Carolina versus Colorado would feed families.
That would be especially knowing what we know now. Like, that would be so awesome. And then the winner plays BYU. I think that matchup with BYU would be a hell of a matchup. Can you imagine Army's style of offense if they got past Iowa State against Miami?
To play Miami? Yeah.
You talk about opposite ends of the spectrum.
I was going to Tyrone. He said, should have been Miami versus Colorado in a bowl game. That would be amazing.
Yeah, and we're going to preview some of the bowl games that we're looking forward to, like the ReliaQuest Bowl with Alabama and Michigan. I don't know why they keep doing that to you in your
Who would win this thing? Yeah, I don't know why they keep doing that.
Who do I think would win this thing?
Yeah.
South Carolina.
Really?
Give me South Carolina. If everybody played, I think you would end up having South Carolina versus Alabama.
Assuming all parties are motivated as they would be if this were the playoff, no opt-out sort of thing.
I think you would get South Carolina versus Alabama. But that South Carolina-Colorado game, I just give me that one.
Who would you take, Blaine?
You know, I would pick South Carolina, but their fan base is too toxic. We're kind of beefing right now.
Y'all are beefing.
Because Dylan Stewart's coming back.
No, yeah, not even that. But I put a tweet out yesterday. It's something about Lenore Sellers. I hope he doesn't get in the transfer portal because their offensive coordinator left. And you would have thought
I just love stirring.
And I didn't even try to stir anything up, and I didn't want to talk about it. I would give me Ole Miss.
I don't think that's crazy. I don't think that's crazy at all.
Well, I take Alabama.
All
three SEC bubble teams.
Yeah, exactly. All right, before we get to the phone lines, it is Tuesday, which means everybody huddle up. David Cohn's about to throw some terminologies on y'all with his Huddle Up segment. Let's go ahead and play it.
Huddle up, Oregon fans. Let's get an 11 personnel and go gun, Z to rip, wing, stack, Linda lock, Y rail. This was the first touchdown for Oregon against Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. Let's break it down. It's 2nd and 15 here. Oregon comes out in 11 personnel, so that's 1 running back and 1 tight end, and they motion the Z receiver to this rip, wing, stack formation. Now, post-snap, Penn State is bringing a fire zone pressure from the boundary. So that's the Sam and Mike backers, both blitz. 3 of the 4 down linemen come with a defensive end twist, and the field defensive end cats out into coverage. Now, Dylan Gabriel knows he doesn't need to worry about this pressure because he has his running back locked in this Linda lock pass protection, which basically means he has 6 to block 5. Now, from there, he works the side of the field where the pressure is coming from, and that's a post-wheel combination, and it really gets this strong safety completely in a bind in his zone coverage. And honestly, Dylan Gabriel should be banging this post route right now. Instead, he opts for the wheel, which is also open, and it would be a first down regardless, but it's the athletic hurdle here by the tight end that makes it a touchdown. You can't really teach or coach that. That's just God-given ability. And this is a perfect example of how dangerous Oregon can be from any down and distance, from anywhere on the field. Don't be surprised if you see this play again in the college football playoff. This is 11 personnel, gun, Z to rip, wing, stack, Linda lock, Y rail.
You know, Cohn, it must be fun breaking down a play as an offensive guy when just 2 guys are open.
Oh, yeah.
As a quarterback, it doubles my chances of making the right decision. You know, you brought up the run after the catch, the post-wheel concept, however you get to it, it's always difficult, whether you're in zone coverage or whether you're in man coverage. But again, the athletes that Oregon has, the body types they have, whether it's Evan Stewart, whether it's Ferguson, whether it's Tez, whether it's James at running back, and then Dylan Gabriel's ability to create. I mean, it's almost hard to call a bad play.
Yeah, and their second touchdown, which was from inside the 8, was almost this exact play, except it was a fake toss. It was kind of a version of what Georgia did to score in the low red zone against Tennessee. But it was kind of switch vert post wheelish, kind of like this one was, and he caught a second touchdown too. So they just beat you so many ways.
It's the versatility and having those weapons again as a play caller. It's just like having great defensive players, Call man, call zone, call a pressure, call a stunt, call base. Call base. Yellow, over. See ya. That's all we need. All right, but speaking about being a responsible play caller, you want to be a responsible man, all right? And to be a responsible man, you got to take care of yourself. You got to be here, all right, to be around your loved ones and help to keep on providing. And that's why you need a multivitamin that is packed, jam-packed, stuffed, smothered, and filleted with 33 key ingredients to sharpen your immune system, support your brain, and keep your heart and your muscles strong. And that's where this delicious tasting and smelling vitamin, all right, with Responsible Man comes into play, all right? It's delicious, and it's even got a cool green cover on it that has a quote that says, unless you try to do something beyond what you have already mastered, you will never grow. You got to keep chasing. And with our diets today, we got a lot of processed foods. It's tough to keep a diet that's good for you. Why not give yourself a little help? Right? Even in Fast and Furious, he's got to hit the nitrous button every now and then to get away. Let this be your nitrous button. And right now, you can take advantage of Responsible Man's Cyber Week sale and get 60% off your order. Just go to responsibleman.com. Use code BOOSTER. There's that code again at checkout. But hurry, this deal will not last long. Remember, gentlemen, a strong America needs strong men. And strong men start with Responsible Man. That's responsibleman.com. Use that code BOOSTER and get 60% off. We're kind of ready to boost into phone calls if you're ready.
All right, hold on. Let me pull them up. All right, let's go to 702 Gambler in Las Vegas. 702, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, how you guys doing today?
What's up, dude?
Hey, I wanted to talk about Georgia and Texas and Notre Dame. I've had a little bit of a change of heart regarding Georgia. I had Texas winning last week. Obviously, that didn't happen. And I was on FanDuel, and I saw where you could parlay Texas and Georgia for a third game, both teams to go to the championship game. And it's like plus $800. And I was like, man, it's kind of crazy. But then when you look at the bracket, it's like, yeah, that could happen. And so I'm curious what you guys think about them playing a third game and what that would mean for the ratings.
Oh, well, look, I mean, I think you're never going to go wrong from a rating standpoint when Georgia plays Texas, but I would like that bet a lot better if Carson Beck wasn't hurt. That's what would worry me about placing that one. That's why when the odds came out, I like Tennessee's bang for their buck, but you look at what they got to go through in the bracket, that's going to be tough. But Notre Dame's sitting right there. They started out at plus 1,200. Then it was down at plus 1,000. That Georgia quarterback injury just scares me. Not that I think Gunnar Stockton sucks, but I just don't think he is ready to be able to win a national championship. And to play Texas, they would have to make it to the national championship game the way the bracket's set up.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I think Notre Dame is in a really good position if they can beat Indiana, which to me, that's the livest dog for round one. I think Indiana's the dog,
I agree.
in my opinion, that has the best chance to do an upset. But I do think if Notre Dame wins, if they can get Georgia on a neutral field and it is Stockton, that'll be a scary game. I do have a question for Cone before you guys go to the next caller. I'm curious who you want to be the next Michigan offensive coordinator and what kind of rumors you're hearing about that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And stay tuned. Maybe we'll have a Michigan guest soon.
Yeah, pretty.
Really a guy who will have the final decision in that process. Look, I heard some rumors this past week about Brian Griese because obviously he was the quarterback on the 97 national championship team, and he's been coaching as a quarterback coach in the NFL. I've been told that that's not going to happen. Obviously, we've talked about Dan Mullen. I heard Dan Mullen's name weeks and weeks ago before Kirk Campbell was even let go. I think anybody in the country would want Dan Mullen. I don't know if he wants to be a coordinator or if he wants to be a head coach or just stay on TV. There's a couple other names right now that I'm hearing that in the next week or so I think we can talk about more.
Yeah, great call.
Thanks, man.
As usual. He always has a great
call. All right, let's go to, speaking about Michigan, let's go to Brian in Michigan. What's going on, Brian?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? How are we doing today?
Good.
What's up?
Hey, guys. I got a question for you. So there's I know a lot of callers have kind of one of the big topics of discussion the last couple of weeks has been the strength of schedule issue that comes with the college football playoff. And obviously you have certain conferences obviously are not equal in terms of the teams that they play. And obviously the SEC and the Big Ten are the two big dogs, and they kind of stand above the other two conferences. But I think that really to make the playoff and to fortify it to be the best that it can be, I think that you almost have to make it to where the NCAA as a body, they come together and they require the four conferences to play each other in the non-conference. If you've got four of them, and for the most part, most of the conferences play get four anyways, then it works out perfectly for me. So you take a team from the Big Ten, they're going to play one against the ACC, one against the SEC, and then one versus the Big 12. So that way, at the end of the season, let's say you have a hypothetical team that maybe lost like 3 conference games, but maybe they went undefeated when they played the opposing conferences. And that way I think you can really take this strength of schedule thing and you can kind of make it so it's on equal footing for all the conferences, because they all had at least an opportunity, every single team, to play at least one team from an opposing conference. What do you guys think about that?
Well, Brian, for 2 years, and after I said it the first time, a couple people I think listened to the show, they're in sports media, and they started to say it. We have something in basketball. We just saw it. The SEC ACC Challenge, Big 10, Big 12 Challenge, where for one game during the week, those conferences play each other. Why could we not do that in football? Why could we not take the first week of the season or the second week, right, or whatever, and say, you know what, this year we're going to have an ACC, SEC challenge and a Big 10, Big 12 challenge where these teams are going to play each other. And then the next year you say, we're going to flip it. Now we're going to have an SEC Big 10 challenge. Then we're going to have an ACC Big 12 challenge. Then we flip it again the next year. This year we're going to have, an ACC Big 12 or an SEC Big 12 challenge and an ACC Big 10 challenge. Why could we not do that for football? Now, every matchup's not going to be equal. Like, somebody's going to have to play the worst team, right, that is in that other conference. But at least that is a way.
Draw it randomly.
Go ahead.
Draw it randomly from a lot. Draw it randomly, like if you were to draw like a Powerball, just draw it randomly.
Why can't we do that?
Yeah.
Why can't we do that?
Yeah.
What do you not like about that?
Why can't this strength of schedule just matter?
It does matter.
Does it?
But this guarantees that at least every team in a Power 4 conference will play at least one other team from a Power 4 conference.
What if that team we're talking about making the playoff did do that and they played a team, beat them, but that team's terrible?
Well, that's just part of it. At least it was scheduled. Nobody's getting mad at Texas because Michigan wasn't good this year. Nobody's getting mad that these teams that scheduled guys 4 years out just so happens that team wasn't that great that year. That's just part of it. Like, I don't look down on Texas for scheduling that game against Michigan. I give them props. They scheduled a game at Alabama the year before and went and won it. So you would say the same thing going into this year. You'd be like, oh, if it was the ACC, SEC challenge, Virginia Tech gets Vanderbilt week 1. Well, what happened? Vanderbilt whipped that ass and turned out to be pretty good. You're never going to be able to sit here and project every single team that turns out great. That's a fool's errand. That's a stupid way to look about it. The way you need to look at it is, at least we're scheduling the game. Let it play out the way it's going to play.
Why does no one ever complain about strength of schedule in the NFL?
Yeah, it's amazing, right?
Because they take it out of it. Because it's taken out of the equation.
Sure.
They don't. Teams just get. I think they what? I don't know this factually, but I'm just making an assumption that they just draw teams completely at random, and who you get is who you get.
I think it's by computer. I think it's by computer.
Yeah,
and we got to remember, there's a lot less teams in the NFL, and they play more games. So, like, you do have the ability for basically everybody to play everybody, or more teams to play each other. When you're looking at, and this is the argument for the Super League. Why would we not just go to a 45-team Super League or a 40-team Super League, right? Play the regular season games that we're playing 12 of them, play a conference championship if it's split into two conferences. Now you've shortened the water in the pool. There's just so many.
What's funny enough, even when we have unofficial examples of that, which we do have unofficial examples of that, Miami went and played Florida at Florida week 1. We have Georgia played Clemson
USC
week 1.
played LSU.
Yeah, but when we have unofficial examples of that, I still have to listen to Reese Davis and Joe Tessitore make these little caveats that when Miami beat Florida on the road in week 1, well, that was week 1. That was a long time ago. Right? Notre Dame beat Texas A&M. That was week 1. But then Georgia whipped Clemson. I never hear any caveat that was the first week of the season.
Well, that's why I kept saying at the end when people were like, well, it's about who's playing the best now. You got to look at the whole body of work. Yeah, you got to look at the whole body of work. Like the beginning of the season, you can't make the argument of it's about who's playing the best now. We got to look at the whole body of work, then forget half the body of work. So I don't know.
Hey, guys,
some of the arguments are contradictory.
Before we move on to the next call, real quick. So I think I did, when I was looking at the conferences the other day, I think between the four, there's 69 total teams. Now, if it's unfortunate you have one to make it extra to make it an odd number, but if you had 68 teams, you could find a way to divvy it up, like I said, to where you take the option out of the schools to pick and choose what they want to do. They say, no, you don't have a choice anymore. We're going to randomly assign you so that way everybody can do it. That's I think the best way to go about this moving forward. And it makes it a lot more exciting for college football fans. Like as a Michigan fan, if I found out early in the regular season that we're going to play non-cons against Missouri, Utah, and then, Syracuse or some random assortment, think about how much more excited you are as a college football fan for the matchups you're going to get.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think that's a crazy thing to say.
Appreciate it, Brian. Thanks, man. All right, let's go to Charlie in Baton Rouge. What's up, Charlie?
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing on this terrific Tuesday?
What's up, man?
Hey, I'm calling back in. Y'all told me to call in more, so I decided to call back in. First of all, I wanted to apologize to y'all for last week. I must have thought, what is this idiot talking about? When I was talking about Power 5 and non-Power 5, I was thinking of the Pac-12 or the Pac-12.
You're good. Look, I get it. I
was brain dead that day. But I got a couple questions for y'all and to get y'all take on it. Any one of you or all three of you, and then kind of give you where I'm coming from on it. What do y'all think of? First question is, what do y'all think about the expansion of the playoff? And I know we just expanded it to 12, but I've been wanting to see this for decades now. I'm 59 years old, so I remember I've been a college football fan since the 1970s. Going from say 12 teams to 16 teams, like what we call the FCS now, used to be Division I AA. They used to be 16 for the longest time. Then they went up to 20, and now they're at 24, which I think is a little too much. Even though they have a lot more conferences and a lot more teams, and there's a lot more parity within that. From top to bottom within that division. Maybe not as much now because they've lost a lot of their better teams to the championships. There's App State's moved up, and James Madison and Georgia Southern and people like that.
Yeah.
But what's your take on that? What's your take on expanding the playoff to say 16 teams? You're still only talking about less than a tenth of the teams that play football in the football bowl system.
Yeah.
There's 135 schools in that division.
Yeah, Charlie, I know what David Cohn's going to say. Can we just get the 12-team one done one time first?
Bing, bing, ding, 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 ding.
Here's what I would say. Do I hate the idea of going to 16? I don't hate it, but here's where it worries me. You heard all these people talking about the expanded playoffs going to hurt the regular season. We've said for multiple years that's ridiculous. It's going to make it more fun at the end. You're going to give other teams more of a chance to get access in there. But there is a cap to that, because if you get past 16, now I think it is going to affect the regular season, not from an excitement standpoint, but from a volume standpoint, because you can't sit here and argue for player safety on one hand and then add all these games at the end of the year and keep a 12-game regular season schedule. What I think would happen is if they go to 16 or beyond, they're going to say, you know what? We're playing more games in the back end, so we're going to go to an 11-game regular season like we used to do, like when you were watching college football back in the 1970s, right? That's what worries me.
I wouldn't be opposed.
It's not an effect of excitement. But see, I don't want that. We already got problems now getting teams to qualify in the college football playoff. We eliminate a regular season game, and then Greg Sankey says, we're not going to go to a 9-game conference schedule in the SEC. In fact, you eliminate a regular season game, we're going to go to a 7-game conference schedule because of what just happened to Alabama.
Why play any SEC
Why
games?
play any SEC games? So to me, I feel like there's a ripple effect there. I don't hate it, but I know that they're not going to cap it. We went from 2 to 4, from 4 to 12. So you mean to tell me they're going to go from 12 to 16 and be like, that's it, guys. No more expansion after this. There ain't a shot in hell.
Appreciate it, Charlie.
Great call, Charlie.
And I know that because you can look at how they've done Division I AA, whatever you want to call it now.
Yeah, you said it's at 24 now? Yeah.
In 1978, when they went with the two, everybody was Division I back then. I mean, and you only had like 12 bowl games. And if you got in the bowl game, you really deserved it. But like McNeese State was playing in the Independence Bowl back in those days. And then they said, you have to have a certain size stadium. Then we're going to split the divisions and all that. Well, there was only 4 teams in 1978 when Florida A&M won it. And then it went up to 6. Then it went to 8. Then it went to 12. Then it went to 16. And I was shocked the other day doing the research. I was like, wow, we're at 24. Yeah. So you're right. They probably won't cap it. And then on the coaching thing, how do y'all feel? Because I'm a coach, so I'm kind of sensitive to this. But when I hear at the end of the season all this chirping going on, and believe me, I'm not an Ohio State fan by any stretch of the imagination, but talking about the coach at Ohio State or even the coach at Penn State, these guys that have been consistently won 10, 11, and especially in the case of the guy at Ohio State, he's been in the college playoffs just about every year and has had a legitimate shot of getting to the national championship game. And you start hearing this chirping about, well, we need to get rid of this guy. We need to get, and the media starts it, and then the fans start it. And it's like, you better be careful about what you're wishing for, because coaches that are out there that can go and win 10, 11, 12 games a year, be in contention for the conference championship and in the college playoff year in and year out.
Yeah.
A dime a dozen. They really are. Nebraska's still suffering from it. They got rid of Frank Solich, and all he did was leave there and go to Ohio University, which was horrible, and developed a consistent winner. Tennessee, until they got Heupel,
and Florida's kind of fallen in. Seems like kind of fallen into that too. Yeah. Here's what I'd say.
Great call, man.
Here's I'm going to say what I can tell you. When you take a job at a place like Ohio State or Michigan or Auburn or Alabama or some of these high-level places, you don't get just paid to win games on the periphery or win most of your games. You get paid to win the right games. And if you're not going to win most of your games, look at Sharon Moore right now. How do you think Michigan fans feel about Sharon Moore at this point in time as they did going up into the week before they beat Ohio State? So you get paid to win those games. It's like in a relationship, he can hold the door for you. He can pay for your dinner, but if you catch him making out with your sister, that's the ultimate sin. None of the other stuff matters.
Thanks for calling, man. All right, let's go to Declan in Clemson, South Carolina. What's up, man?
What's up? I wanted to call in about Clemson versus Texas.
Yeah, let's do it. We got a big preview tomorrow for that too, but hit me with it.
If we win, are we back?
I mean,
back to what?
That's a good question. Back to what? Like national champion?
Well, I mean, I don't think y'all would get back to where y'all were just with the level of talent that y'all had on those football teams. But I think Clemson right now, they're in a very good position. And one, I can't believe the spread came out and was 11.5. I think they're good enough to make some waves in this playoff. So Dabo Swinney could be the first coach ever to win a national championship with 3 losses. So, look, you can say what you want about Clemson and Dabo. One, Dabo's doing a lot in the portal right now if you're keeping track of Clemson, which I did not think he would do. And two, at the end of the day, Dabo has got this team to where they have a chance to win a national championship. And I think that says a lot about Dabo Swinney as a football coach.
Yeah, well, and the game has changed a lot, even since Dabo was doing what he did earlier when he got Clemson to that elite level where they were winning national championships. But, there's 12 teams left. Declan, Clemson's one of them. He's gotten you to the playoff. He's gotten you into the, quote-unquote, last round of the season, maybe not the playoff. And I've seen Clemson have great teams lose the national championship game. So I think this is a testament to maybe not Clemson being back, but maybe they really just never went away the way we thought they did.
Yeah, I'll be in Austin, Texas with them because I'm in the band, so that'll be cool. I'll be rocking horns down.
That'd be a huge win. I mean, that would be a
Declan, what are you playing in the band, man?
Trombone.
Oh, come on, dude.
Nice.
God,
what do you guys think the spread would be if it was Miami playing Texas instead of Clemson?
I think it'd be
7.5.
I think it'd be double digits. I think it'd be more than a spread right now.
You think it'd be smaller?
I think it'd be smaller.
I bet it'd be 13.5. I think Miami's defense is that bad.
Yeah.
I think it would be 7.5. That's what I think.
Interesting. All right, appreciate it, Declan.
Great call, man.
Call in again before that game. We got a good preview tomorrow for that. All right, let's go to Zach in Louisiana. What's up, Zach?
What's going on, y'all? First off, I just want to say I appreciate y'all for what y'all do, man. Y'all inspired me to start my own podcast. If y'all had a show on ESPN, I'd watch ESPN again, but I got two questions. I got two questions, one about the portal, kind of the poll question, and then another about the playoffs. I see a lot of these guys, like the kid from Washington who transferred to OU and back to Washington, and Stogner who did the same thing. We're talking about it being the Wild Wild West. Why not make you get one transfer and then you sit out if you do another one, like how back in the day if you wanted to, switch schools, you had to sit out?
Well,
would that not?
Zach, I agree with you, bro. Like, I mean, here's what I've said. In this new era, you should get one free transfer. Now, there's caveats with me. That one free transfer, that can be Division I to Division I, FCS or FBS to FBS, FCS to FCS, FCS to FBS, and FBS to FCS. I don't mind that. But if you're going to transfer within your own conference, you have to sit out a year. I got no problem with you going from LSU to Utah. I got no problem with you going Miami to Rutgers. But the minute you want to go from LSU to Alabama, I think you got to sit out a year unless your head coach leaves for any reason. I think even if you transfer, you get that one free transfer. Let's say you go from Miami to Utah, right? You go from one conference to another, that's your free transfer. And let's say Kyle Whittingham steps down at the end of the year. I feel like you should get another transfer. And within that, if your head coach leaves, if he's fired, if he resigns, if he takes another job or whatever, that should be the only time you're allowed to transfer within the conference without a penalty.
The problem is I think that a lot of the players are saying, wait, the coaches can transfer whenever they want. The transfer portal is always open for the coaches to take a new job. And some of these circuit court judges around the country are erring on the side of the student athlete saying, you're being exploited and you can transfer whenever you want.
Well, and to me, I say that the court thing is a real thing. Like that, you're not going to win a case if you're going against a player transfer, and I think now in the court of law. But when did we get to the point where every job was looked at like it was the same? Like Jeremy Boarding can do stuff I can't do here at the Daily Wire. Why? Because he's in the position that he's in, and I'm in the position that I'm in. The guy who stocks the shelves at Walmart doesn't get to make the same decisions that the Walton family does because he don't own Walmart. When did we start living in a world where the guys who are entry level should get the same things that the CEOs do? I don't understand that. Not saying you do, but that's the way I look at it.
I get it.
Yeah, I feel that. And I have one more question. It's kind of something that just popped up whenever I was on the wait list. Another big thing is about these kids sitting out for these bowl games. What if, instead of playing the bowl games, the people you have for the bowl games that you're going to play, that's your first game for the next season. So we don't have to worry about kids sitting out. We get to see a Jalen Milroe versus, Bryce Underwood. We get to see it means something. What do y'all think about that?
I mean, I wish we could make some of these periphery bowl games, mean something. What, I don't know. I don't think I would go that far just because they're totally different teams going into the next year. I don't want to punish, the group for next year because of the team from last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that.
But no more bowl games, just the NIT tournament.
Just NIT. Give us college football NIT.
Thanks, Zach.
I watched the NIT over the the playoffs. But
that's what Blaine was saying.
I'm telling you.
Hey, Zach, good luck with your podcast, man. You Shopify.
Hold it down in Louisiana for us. All right, let's go to Jay Hud in Indiana. Jay Hud, what's going on, man? Who you pulling for in this Notre Dame-Indiana matchup?
Hey, so I am pulling for Notre Dame. First of all, I just want to say I'm back. I am back to a Daily Wire subscriber again. I'm taking a break from my schoolwork for a minute, so y'all are going to get a lot of my loud mouth again.
Good.
Come here.
Second of all, I had two things for you today with that game. First one is a statement. Strength of schedule. listen, I'm with people. I get it when we look at strength of schedule. I get how it looks at times. I am with Blaine when we talk college basketball. We talk about Gonzaga. I hate that they do so well every year. It's so freaking annoying. But they have been that dog once or twice where they've come and done well in the postseason. Okay, IU and Notre Dame are both a dog this year. Look, IU beat a Michigan team that made some offensive mistakes that kept their defense that they have ridden this year on the field longer than they should be. That really hurt them in that Ohio State game. I think I agree with you guys. You look at the mistakes that were made and how that game could have played out. Yeah, they probably still would have lost, but I think it would have been a much closer game. So when you look at that, I think we got to stop sleeping on these teams because of strength of schedule. I think when we look at it, you look at how badly IU beat other teams that other big teams kind of barely beat. Same with Notre Dame, how badly they beat up on teams that other teams kind of barely beat. They are dogs. And then my breakdown is this: IU versus Notre Dame specifically. IU has ridden the strength of their defense, like I said. I think that's going to help them out. It's going to be a really close first quarter. Second quarter, I think Notre Dame probably takes the lead. Freeman has proven this year that he is making those adjustments in game. He's going to come in, probably take a one-score lead that second quarter. But then Notre Dame has been a big second-half team this year. I think that third quarter, Indiana's going to try to put up a fight for a minute. By the end of that third quarter, though, I think Notre Dame wins the game. By the end of the third quarter, I think we're going to see a breakout. That line is going to dominate on the line of scrimmage. Indiana's probably going to get tired, and Notre Dame's going to be a dog, and they're going to. I don't think they're going to go like championship as much as I want them to, but they could. I mean, they do have a strong shot when you look at how their bracket plays out.
That's why I think Notre Dame is the best bet. Like, if you're going to get the bang for your buck bet to win the national championship, that's why when it came out plus 1,200, I thought overall it was the best one when you compare it to Tennessee. Tennessee's got to go through further in the bracket. I'm not going to take the number one overall seed or any of that stuff. As far as the strength of schedule, I think it all should matter. But I think if we're going to sit here and pick apart teams from strength of schedule, if a team didn't play a great schedule, I think scoring margin does matter. If you're just barely beating bad teams or okay teams, I think that means something. But if you're murdering them, I think that means something else, or at least I will hold you in a higher purview. But I do still think that we can look at strength of schedule and take a little bit more about a team that played a tougher schedule, that may be more, not just because the way they looked during that game, but they're more battle-tested, so therefore we know more about them.
I'm more hesitant on the scoring margin just because it could penalize style of play. If you're an Arizona State-type team, you run the ball, play good defense, a Michigan-style team.
I get that.
You're going to play an Army. Army's kind of that way, too. I mean, even though when they're really, really good, you can still beat people by a bunch of points no matter what style you play. I understand that. What do you want to say about strength of schedule?
Well, it's just tough for me. It really is. I do think Alabama deserves to be in the playoffs, to be honest. I think they'd be a better team. And I think they're a top 12 team. If we look at margin on certain teams, Indiana, I guess you could say they did roll a lot of kids, but we can talk about SMU beating Nevada by 5, beating Louisville by a touchdown, beating Duke by 1, beating Boston College by 7. So, I guess there is some punishment there. But look, man, when it comes to Gonzaga's proven it. All right, I think Gonzaga, as easy as the people they play, run through an in-state tournament. They got the guys. I'm still waiting on these teams that strength of schedule weren't great to come in here and actually prove they belong.
Yeah. Well, Blaine, let me ask you this, because I get what you're saying. But how do you view the difference in, let's say, a team like Alabama that played a tough schedule, beat some good teams, but also got destroyed by Oklahoma? Like, does a bad loss to a bad team negate a strong schedule with a big win, as opposed to a close wins over bad teams? Like, to me, that's a tough thing to weigh against each other, man. Like, we're having to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, but I guess that just is what it is.
Appreciate it, J-Hud.
Yeah, great call, man.
Thanks, man. Anybody else on the line, please, y'all call in tomorrow.
Yeah, great calls. All right. The legs are not asleep today. That's a good sign. Last night, BCU pinned the under. Ooh, come here, girl. Under 135, it was 111. Never a doubt. So we're going back to the hardwood tonight. Give me Arkansas playing the Fighting David Cones. That's Michigan at home. A couple juicy matchups in college basketball tonight. Arkansas +4. That's -112. And look, Duke's going to murder Incarnate Word. But I think they're going to murder him by 34 or less. Give me Incarnate Word. Have you heard the word? At +34.5. That's -110.
All right, I'll go with the alma mater. Give me Michigan -3.5, -115, taking on Cal and Arkansas. And then give me Penn State +3, -108.
All right, bring mine up. 101 yesterday. God, I really liked the over in that Dallas and Cincinnati game.
I couldn't believe it didn't hit.
Ended up 47. I'm taking Miami +14.5, -110. A little bit of a covering machine here. And I'm rolling with the Fighting David Cones. Give me Michigan -3.5. And that big thing from BYU, y'all got Wolf? Is that his last name?
Yeah, he played last year? Yale, that's it. I don't know why. The only reason I said BYU because that kid signed with BYU today. Yeah,
for like $13 million.
Well, hey, at least y'all can both be wrong together with Michigan. That Miami, Tennessee, they're playing at Tennessee undefeated. I think you're going to have Tennessee and then Auburn one.
How good do you think Tennessee is?
I think they're pretty good. I think Lanier's, if he can keep getting shots within the first couple dribbles like he is, he's not an unbelievable creator. But look, Tennessee's going to be. Rick Barnes is a daggum good basketball coach. Tennessee's pretty good. All right, Ace, what do you got? He's going to go Wisconsin, the Badgers, in a Big Ten game going to Champaign, not just to drink. They're going to play Illinois in basketball, too, at +6.5. That's at -108. And then Michigan, Arkansas over 148 tonight at -1.
Is that in Madison Square Garden?
Is it? We need to look that up.
Madison
I don't
Square
think
Garden?
it's
Which game?
It may be because we got like
Michigan,
the holiday
Arkansas?
Hoopsgiving or something coming up, too. You know, that's this time of year where they play all these games on neutral sites in basketball, you know, not just out in
That's
Maui.
at Michigan.
No, it's not. That game isn't in Michigan. I swear it's not.
Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Yeah, because it had Arkansas as the bottom team, which means they're the home team.
That's
Somebody's got to be the home team.
All right, let's get these donations. If you donate today, appreciate it. Really love that on this side. $5 donation from Charles Sharrow. It says, Heath wised up and tells you a conference championship bets and won. So his wife finally let him back in the house. He reached China, Jake. Damn it, he did it.
That's what I'm saying, man. Look, just keep your head down. What do they say? Don't look up. Just keep your head down, keep digging. It was perfect in my conference championship picks, Heath. Keep riding the lightning, bro.
$5 donation from Matthias Mosley. Appreciate it, Matthias. Give me more of Kenyon Sadiq in the open field. He just needed a track lean when he crossed the goal line.
Yeah.
Let's go to a $5 donation from Mr. Man. He says, hey, guys, just found y'all's show. I want to get your thoughts on this. Will Tennessee's team only go as far as Nico takes them?
Well, got a great breakdown early in the show. Welcome to the show. You'll never leave. It's the trust tree. Believe. Eventually, yes. Like, to win a national championship, Nico's going to have the ball at some point. But I think that comes in different forms. Again, what have we said all year? Like, his legs, when the play breaks down, that's got to become a weapon. Like, there's no point in holding it back. People kept saying, well, there's only 3 games where he needs to run this year, and those are, like Alabama and Georgia. Well, guess what? Now there's, 4? You got to win 4, 3 or 4, whatever it is. He's going to have to create, keep his eyes down the field, hit guys, create, keep his eyes down the field, and then take off, and then obviously the zone read and the field quarterback.
Like I said, to win this one, I think he has to play good. We can argue over what playing good means. I don't think he needs to play perfect, but I also don't think he can play poorly or even average.
I think you put that
on the road.
Let's go to a $5 donation from Herdin Cattle. He says, fellas, you think we're going to see more of Arch Manning in the playoffs? I don't think Quinn can get it done.
David, what do you
tell me, man? We saw him one time in the SEC championship game, and they snapped it through his legs on the 4th down. Remember?
Yeah. But again. Is it a feel thing? Is it like after a quarter and a half? I really think Sark looks at it and goes, is our offensive line holding up? If our offensive line's holding up, you're not going to see him. If it starts to break down, which is why I was shocked you didn't see him more in the second half, especially when Beck went out and Gunnar Stockton was playing the whole second half. Because now you're not worried as much about Georgia, even though they weren't hitting a ton of explosive plays. Like, I really think it's a feel thing. So holler at me after the first 3 drives that Texas has against Clemson. Then I'll be able to tell you.
Let's go to a $5 donation from Gibby. Appreciate it, Gibby. Says, I'm just happy to be here, fellas. Go Big Orange. Take it all.
It's time. It's time. Look, it's playoff time. You got to play somebody good, right? We can't all be Penn State. That's not saying SMU isn't good, but they got the best path.
$5 donation from David Cohn for Prez. Boot Carter punt returns are must-see TV. Yep. Don't blink. That dude is going to take one to the house.
He's nice.
Let's go to a $5 donation from The Buckeye. He says, if Ryan Day doesn't win this game, he is gone, and I don't want to hear anything else from anybody.
What happened? I just got word in my ear. Mary Marie just took her first step. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, Darby made a comment.
Let's go, dude.
So
anyways,
what on the football front? What happened?
Well, if Ryan Day loses this game, is he fired?
Oh man!
And by fired, I don't just mean ESPN has announced Ohio State has fired Ryan David.
You mean they push behind the scenes?
It is. There's been a mutual parting of ways.
I'll say no, but probably.
All right, we had a $15 donation from Jay Hudson. He called in and explained all of it. Let's go to a $5 donation from I'm Quacking Up. Says, this is Dan Lanning, tournament to win. I believe in Dan in big games. Our defense has to play better down the stretch.
Look, Oregon's the only perfect team left, right? And they're not, I mean, perfect record-wise. They're not perfect overall, but God, they got screwed with that draw, man. That sucks. But Dan don't want to hear that. You're not going to hear Oregon complaining about it. What are they doing today? They're working on replacing the hands. Working on replacing
bucket step?
Yep, but little 45, little 90 too.
That's $3 donation. Last donation of the day from Mr. Roar. What's up? He says, James Franklin better win this game or he's dead to me.
God, James Franklin and Ryan Day. Man, it's got to be tough. It's got to be tough if you make the playoff and you're still going to get fired if you lose. That sucks.
All right.
Not that James Franklin would be fired.
3 more donations just came in. $2 donation from Chad. Colin Samara, huh? Sure hope I can get through. We'll see what we can do for you, Chad. $5 donation from The New Life. Notre Dame likes to run the ball and throw intermediate passes. Indiana's number 1 against the run and number 2 in total defense. The Irish better come.
That's why we
ready.
Like the
under.
$5 donation from Justin. Appreciate it, Justin. Fellas, Nova will most likely move on from Neptune. Who are some names you think will come up?
In basketball, it's weird watching Villanova not be very good. I'd have to really look into it. It's amazing, kind of like the Big East, which is still a thing in basketball, believe it or not. They kind of all swim in the same pool. You saw, Cooley go from Providence to Georgetown. I don't know. Let me look into that a little bit, but it is weird seeing Nova struggle in basketball. It's kind of, like seeing Virginia struggle in basketball.
I hope Virginia forever struggles in basketball. Let's get to the poll. It says, do you love or hate the transfer portal? We got 3 options here. All right, 3, love, hate, and mixed feelings. I had a little caveat to the end of that.
Probably mixed feelings because fans are hoping their team gets someone good too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
I think you're looking at it too
50%.
Logical. I think you're looking at it too logical. I feel like they said hate 56%.
Okay.
Love 15%. Hate 19%. Mixed feelings.
Nailed it.
66%.
That's a lot.
Jay Huddy came with a $2 donation, said, don't read my donos. I said them in the call.
That's a double up. Appreciate you guys. Got a great show for you tomorrow. SMU head coach Rhett Lashley is going to join us. That's right. Going to get to talk to him about the perspective heading in the playoff, the great year that they've had. You don't want to miss that. Shout out to Game Time. Make sure you download that app. Use code BOOSTER, responsibleman.com, right? Get that immune system right. Use that code BOOSTER. Get 60% off for the cyber sale. And like the chances of me not counting down the seconds before the first playoff game that we're going to live stream from Mission Cigar. We're going. Oh, God. Yeah, you see me reach back. Like Odell.